Here now we are going to look at the factors for the coming of the Swahili Arabs, Arab slave traders in Buganda. So the arrival of the Arabs in the, or Swahili Arabs in the kingdom. So what were the factors that prompted the coming of the Arabs into Buganda Kingdom? Number one was the establishment of Arab Empire in Zanzibar. The establishment of the Arab Empire in Zanzibar. So what happened was that there was it was created by Said bin Sultan, who was later known or called Said Saidi. He was an Oman monarch. He was an Oman monarch from the royal family there of Oman, that is in Arabia there, who transferred his headquarters from Muscat. Muscat is in Oman, so he transferred that headquarters from Oman to Zanzibar in the East Africa in 1840s. That's what he did. So Said Saidi was the first to arrive in the kingdom in 1844. So in 1844, Said Saidi came to Buganda Kingdom. Another aspect that attracted the Arabs into this territory was the trade. So Swahili Arabs went to Buganda to trade. They went there to trade. So the Buganda or Baganda wanted cloth, beads, guns from the coast from these Arabs. The Swahili Arabs, they wanted ivory, slaves, and other goods from Baganda. And also the raids. The Arabs, they came there for raids. So Baganda wanted the Swahili Arabs to help them raiding and invading the Busoga people. So they wanted to be assisted by them. The Swahili Arabs also provided guns to the Kabaka's men to raid the neighboring countries or the surrounding areas. Such as Busoga, Bunyoro, Toto, Ankole, and others. So you can remember Bunyoro, we talked about it to say it was another powerful territory. So with the coming of the Arabs, they gave the guns to the Buganda and they were able to defeat them. So from these attacks, they brought back slaves, cattle, ivory, grain, which were sold to the foreigners. So you see to it that when they were attacking others, they were able to bring back, they brought back, they could even capture those people and sell those people to the Swahili Arabs as slaves. Now let us look at the impact of Swahili Arab traders on Buganda Kingdom. Impact of the Swahili Arab traders on Buganda Kingdom. Number one, we are going to look at expansion of trade. Buganda's long-distance trade was expanded with the arrival of the Swahili Arabs. And this led to the emphasis on trade on ivory slaves and guns rather than traditional commodities such as coffee, beans, backcloth, and iron. So the arrival of the Arabs in Buganda, it expanded the trade because now they were participating in that long-distance trade other than the communal trade. It also led to the spread of Islam and cultural revolution. So we see to it that the arrival of the Swahili had an impact on trade, number one. Number two, we are saying there was the spread of Islam as well as the cultural revolution. So there was Ahmad bin Ibrahim, was the first East Coast trader to enter Buganda in 1844 to spread Islam as he was trading with the Buganda. So Ahmad bin Ibrahim, he came to trade in Buganda, but he also introduced Islam there. Kabaka Mutesa observed the Ramadan for 10 years. So you see to it that Kabaka Mutesa, he observed, he was also doing that same of that same thing of Ramadan. Each and every year, that period of Ramadan, he was able to observe together with the Muslims for 10 years. So he practiced religion zealously and learned Arabic and adopted Arab dress, manner, Islamized the court, and built many mosques. So we see to it that Kabaka Mutesa, after he adopted that religion, he also put much emphasis on that spread, building of mosques, adopting the type of dress, learning Arabic language, and many other manners of Islamic religion. He also ordered execution of many traditionalists who opposed the new religion. So Kabaka Mutesa, he did that one to say, no, everyone who is going to oppose this Islam is going to be killed. Islam also prepared the way for Christianity by opening up minds of Baganda to universal religion. So in here, you have to understand it in this way, that the arrival of the Muslims here, it also paved the way for Christianity, because the people now, they opened up to say, oh, religion is not just about our ancestors. We can worship at a universal stage to say what the other people worship somewhere, we can also worship the same. So that is universal religion. Let us look at the Muslim-Christian alliance and political revolution. Muslim-Christian alliance and political revolution. So the Muslims and the Christians, they formed an alliance to resist the attempt by Kabaka Mwanga to kill or expel all adherents of foreign religion. So things change. Things really change. Nothing is permanent. You find here that we have said that Kabaka Mutesa, he embraced that religion. He adopted that religion. But come Kabaka Mwanga, here he did not want that foreign religion. And he wanted to expel all the people who were practicing that religion or who brought that religion. So the Christians and the Muslims, they made that alliance. So they sent Kabaka Mwanga into exile in 1888. So after they united together, then they took the Kabaka and sent him into outside the kingdom to say he's going to cause a havoc or something like the revolution. Later, the alliance became sour and Christians joined Mwanga in exile. So later on, because Christianity and Islam, they are not one religion, they are different. So while they managed to expel Mwanga, but themselves, again, Christians and Muslims, they did not agree on some of the aspects. As a result, the Christians, they joined Mwanga in exile. So Muslims had political control of Buganda. They were supplied with ammunition by the Swahili Arabs. So Muslim rule was there between 1888 and 1889. And during that time, it was marked by Christian persecution. So during that time, when the Muslims dominated Buganda, it happened that the Christians were killed. They were persecuted. They were killed. So with that, then we see to it that there was instability. That's why here we have said that the Christians then, they ran away into exile and joined that Mwanga, Kabaka Mwanga. Many Christians in Buganda, they were killed because there was that Muslim rule. So the Europeans were also expelled, churches and Bibles were destroyed. The Christians and Mwanga returned to power in 1890 after bloody war. So it meant that the Christians and the Kabaka Mwanga, they reorganized themselves there and came, and now they are fully equipped now for the war. So in return, they persecuted Muslims and Swahili Arabs in Buganda, and all those, they were killed, and their political influence ended in 1890. The civil wars in Buganda from 1888 to 1890 were the result of traditional factionalism with Buganda and not foreign interference. Yeah, so what we are saying is that there were those civil wars, the unrest between 1888 and 1890. So basically, those civil wars, the unrest that were there, it was because of the traditional factionalism. That is, people, they were more associated to their traditions than other people. So as we have said that Buganda was big, therefore there were factions, there were divisions, there were traditional divisions. Factionalism here, it means when you say faction, a faction is a division. So traditional factionalism, it means that it was because of traditional divisions. So within Buganda, so traditions, they people, they could not agree on traditions, and it was not because of foreign interference, because sometimes we may wrongly interpret to say that the presence of the Arabs and the Christians, they are the ones who caused that unrest. But no, it was the traditional factionalism, traditional divisions. This time we are looking now at another part which is very, very important to be attentive and look at. So we are looking at the early European explorers and missionaries in Buganda Kingdom. We have mentioned about Christians, Christians, Christians. Now let us look at these missionaries. Who were the missionaries that were there in Buganda? Who were the early missionaries to arrive in Buganda? What about the travelers? Who were the travelers who at one point in time they reached this kingdom of Buganda? So let's start with the early European explorers. There was this one, Speke and Barton. Speke and Barton. They were sent by the Royal Geographical Society in 1856. So Richard Barton and John Hanning Speke, they led the expedition from Zanzibar to trace the source of Nile River. So you see, their aim of coming there was to trace the source of Nile River. Now, they were guided by a Yao, or the Yao aides, by the name Sidi Bombay and Mwinyi Mabruk. And they traveled to Tabora. So they traveled all the way from Zanzibar to Tabora. They reached Lake Tanganyika in 1858, but were unable to continue because of the illness. We are talking of Speke and Barton. Speke decided to go north to examine the stories of Great Lake in that direction. So he heard about the Great Lake in the northern part when they reached Tanganyika there. So Barton had a violent argument with him over this and remained behind. So they argued. So while Speke went up north, Barton remained because they did not agree one thing. So Speke alone found the lake and named it Queen Victoria. He named it after Queen Victoria. That's why today we have that Lake Victoria. It was named by Speke. It was named by John Hanning Speke. But he did not have a proof that it was the source of the river Nile. So while he saw that lake, he did not have that proof that, yes, I have seen the source of river Nile. Much as we really know as of now that the river Nile comes from there, the Lake Victoria. The two men returned to the coast from Tabora, still bitterly disagreeing. So the two people then, these two, Barton and Speke, they returned to the coast, still more, while not agreeing to each other on how they are to move about. Then there was Speke and Grant. Speke and Grant. The Royal Geographical Society sent Speke as in charge, accompanied by James Grant in 1860. So after that 1856 journey with Barton, then Speke was sent back again with Grant. So they reached Buganda and were welcomed by Kabaka Mutesa. So Kabaka Mutesa welcomed Speke and Grant. So Speke traveled east and came across the place where the Nile leaves the lake. So the modern site of Ginger town. So it is the modern site of Ginger town. So he arrived there. So Speke, he arrived at the source where the Nile River starts now going out of the Lake Victoria. Another explorer is Henry Morton Stanley. So he was working with the American newspaper, the New York Herald. So he was sent on a mission to find Dr. David Livingstone. And he caught up with Stanley at Ujiji on Lake Tanganyika in 1871. So this Henry Morton Stanley, he was sent to find out about Dr. David Livingstone, and they met at Ujiji there. So he became the first traveler to use large and well-equipped and well-armed columns of ruthless military action against local populations who showed resistance. This was between 1874 and 1877. So Henry Morton Stanley, he had a large expedition of soldiers because himself, he was like a journalist who was working under a big newspaper, the New York Herald. So he was sent to establish something. For example, here, mainly he was sent to find out about Livingstone and hear more of Livingstone. So whenever he was traveling, sometimes they could meet resistance. So he had that large expedition and well equipped to suppress any resistance. So Stanley impressed the Kabaka that he represented a people who would be useful to him because they possessed superior technological and military power. So when he met with Kabaka, then he impressed the Kabaka to say, I am representing a certain civilization outside there who are more advanced in military as well as in technology. So you can benefit a lot from them. So he believed that missionary success in Africa would be dependent on European commercial and military power. So that was his belief, that is Stanley. So Stanley charted the mainstream of Congo River between 1875 and 1877. So he moved along that Congo River between those years. And also Stanley, he made a thorough survey of Lake Victoria, Albert, and Tanganyika. So these three lakes were thoroughly studied by Henry Morton Stanley. He made that thorough study through his movements. So Lake Victoria, Lake Albert, as well as Lake Tanganyika. We have looked at the mission, the explorers. Let's look at the early missionaries, early European missionaries. So the Church Missionary Society, which is abbreviated to CMS, in 1876 sent the expedition. So the instigator of the scheme was Henry Morton Stanley. So Henry Morton Stanley, when he went back, he sent the report to say here there is need for missionary work. So Stanley had a talk with Kabaka Mutesa #1 about Christianity and found out the Kabaka was ready to listen to him. So when Stanley talked to the Kabaka about the introduction of missionary work in his area, Kabaka was ready to accept those people. So Kabaka welcomed the idea of Stanley and welcomed the missionaries when they came. So the Church Missionary Society, it was the one that set that expedition and settled in the Buganda Kingdom. Now let us look at the reasons why Kabaka Mutesa welcomed the missionaries. Let's look at reasons why Kabaka Mutesa welcomed the missionaries. Number one was the threat from Egypt. Mutesa was worried by the advance of Egypt, hence looked forward for the expectation to the military, political, and economic power that the missionaries would bring him. So he wanted that support from the military, from the missionaries against the Egyptians. And also internal power struggle with the traditional priests. Kabaka engaged in some struggle with the traditional priests of Lubale, Lubale cult. Remember, we mentioned this Lubale cult. And also he wanted to use Christianity to break the power of Lubale, since it opposed the centralizing power. These priests, the priests of Lubalekat, they were opposing the centralizing power. They felt like they also have the power to control other part or other aspects of the kingdom. So he wanted to suppress that Lubalekat. And also intellectual interest in Christianity. Kabaka developed the interest in Christianity. So he liked the idea of eternal life and forgiveness of sins, and also writing of Christian principles in a book. So he liked the Bible itself. So he liked that one. So with that, then he developed that interest in Christianity. Now let us look at the missionary activities and the relations with the Kabaka. So the first missionary to arrive in Buganda were the Church Missionary Society, just as we have said, the CMS. So the British Protestants, so they came from Britain, and then they were the British Protestant churches. They came in 1877, led by Alexander Mackay. Alexander Mackay led the Church Missionary Society. And in 1878, the White Fathers or the French Catholics, they arrived under the leadership of Father Simon Luadale. So these missionaries were trying to change some of the traditions of Buganda Kingdom, which were ungodly. So when these missionaries came in, they tried to reform some of the things that were taking place in Buganda in as far as religion was concerned. So after some time, relationship of Kabaka and the missionaries became sour, and he returned to the Baganda gods. So in the passage of time, that relationship now started to diminish. So the Kabaka returned now to the old ways of the Baganda gods, the worship of the spirits, just as we said. So after the African converts left under their own leadership, continued the work of evangelization with favor and or growing self-reliance and responsibility. So African converts, they were also, when many were converted, they were choosing leaders among them. So they were preaching onto each other, and they were growing really smoothly like that. So for example, Joseph Mukasa, Biliku Dembe emerged as the inspiring Catholic leaders during the Father Rudell's absence. So when Father Rudell was not there, these leaders, the African leaders, they took up that Christianity, the teachings of the Catholic fathers, and they were advancing and preaching into their fellow Africans. Here, we are now looking at the factors. What were the factors that led to the success of Christianity among the Baganda? Because Christianity was successful in Buganda. The first factor was the inspiring message of the gospel. So the teaching of equality and dignity of man, that one made people to understand it very well, and hence many people accepted Christianity. Secondly, attraction of the written word. So the pages were attracted by the printed word and became the good leaders as well. So remember, the pages we talked of, the pages who were there at the king's court, who were being trained in different aspects. So those pages, they were attracted to the printed word and became the readers of such things. And missionaries medical skills was another factor for the success of Christianity in Buganda. So they associated missionaries' skill with Jesus' healing activities. So the skills that those people brought in, which were proved to be good. We talk of farming techniques and many other things. So it was like a miracle or miracles to them to say, oh, now we are healed to these things. Look at how best we are now doing these things. And also another factor for the success of Christianity was increase of Kabaka's power and decline of traditional chiefs' power. So the power of Kabaka increased and that of the hereditary provincial chiefs declined. So the Kabaka increased in power. As such, he easily accepted whatever the missionaries, when he accepted what the missionaries brought, then no one again could oppose whatever the Kabaka has accepted. Now, let us look at the Kabaka Mwanga's reign of terror and the martyrdom of Christians. Remember, we mentioned of Kabaka Mwanga, who also rose against a religion at some point in time. So this was 1885 and 1886. So Mwanga had no experience and he was very young, 18 years old, when he became the king. So his weaknesses were easily led, revengeful, and unpredictable, addicted to bang, that is smoking, and homosexual. So he was weak. He was a very weak leader in a number of aspects. So as such, he started to kill the Christians. He started to kill or persecute the Christians. So what justification did he give? What explanation did he give to say now Christians have to be killed? Number one, fear of the katikiro. Fear of the katikiro. The rise of the Christian pages at the court made Mwanga to turn against them. Remember, those who were the pages there, who were being trained to be experts in different things, and the Katikiro, remember, the prime minister. That one, it did not give space to Mwanga, breathing space. He felt like these people, they know more. As such, if I give them chance, they are going to take over my leadership. We have already said that the pages, those assistants there, they were the first people to adopt that religion at the king's court. So they were far ahead than the Kabaka himself. So he wanted to get rid all of those pages. Also, the Swahili Arab influence. The Swahili Arab influence also contributed to the to the justification of his persecution. So he said the Swahili Arab influence, they were influencing him. So Mwanga was deeply suspicious of the entry of missionaries by the forbidden door, that is the back door. So Mwanga talked to Chief Luba, and Hannington was killed by Busoga, was killed in Busoga. So a Catholic chief who protested Hannington's murder was also put to death in November 1885. So Mwanga, he did not want the missionaries to be in his territory. So mainly he wanted the Arabs to be there. So he was influenced by the Arabs to say, no, missionaries, they are not supposed to be here, these Christians. So he influenced the killing of even the Christian missionary or Hannington. And not only that, he also killed the chief who protested the killing of that missionary. And also lack of cooperation among the pages. So Mwanga became furious and persecuted the pages at the king's court there, who rejected his homosexual advances. So Mwanga, as we are saying, that he was advancing the homosexuals, homosexuality. Men are marrying men or sleeping with men. So 30 of the pages who admitted to be Christians were burnt to death at Namugongo in Kisenyi, they were killed. So we see to it that he had his own views which were contrary to Christianity and the beliefs that many others accepted in his kingdom. Another justification of Mwanga for killing the Christians was the fear and attempted expansion of Christian-Muslim coalition. So Protestants and Catholic converts joined a larger group of Muslim in Baganda to overthrow Kabaka Mwanga. So the converts, they joined hand to say, oh no, this leader is not a good leader at all. He's unreligious. So they joined hands in order to overthrow him. So they captured Mwanga's palace in 1888 and forced him to flee to the South Lake Victoria. So they captured that palace and they forced him to go out into exile. So Mwanga's brother Kiwewa was made a ruler. So he drove Christians and missionaries out of the kingdom there. So it was still more under the influence of the Muslim. So Kiwewa remained a pagan. He remained a pagan, though he was influenced by the Muslims. So he refused to become a Muslim and to be circumcised. So he remained just like that, a pagan or a traditional worshipper. So Muslims, they murdered him and promoted Kalema. So because he also refused to follow Islamic traditions, then he was also murdered by the Muslims, and they put also Karema to be the next Kabaka, who was his younger brother. So he was put to the throne there. Here now, we are going to look at the Christian Revolution. The Christian Revolution. So during the Muslim rule, Christian missionaries were expelled. So churches, Bibles, they were all burnt, and many Baganda Christians were killed. So, and in exile, those who went in exile, the Christians, they formed a religious party and contacted Charles Stokes, who turned into to arms dealer but was a former missionary. So with that, because they were expelled from Buganda, wherever they were, the Christians, they formed their own party, and they convinced one of the former missionaries to say, you have to acquire arms. We need to go back and take over that territory. So they were led by Apollo Kagwa. However, they needed Mwanga because he had the support of the masses. So in here, what happened was that Apollo Kagwa led this expedition of the Christians as the leader to take over now Buganda. But they needed that exiled king to say, we need the king himself to be installed back, because himself still more, although he was a bad leader, but he had the support of the people. So the Christians, they wanted the support of the people. So the Christian party and the Mwanga alliance fought their way back to power. So they defeated Kalema and Muslims in 1889 because they were supplied with arms and ammunition. So Mwanga's power were trimmed and Apollo Kagwa was made Katikiro. So you see what happened there when Mwanga became the leader. But there then, because now it was an alliance, in an alliance you agree the terms. So they agreed the terms to say, all right, now you are going back to power, but your power is going to be reduced. And they put Apollo Kagwa, who was also the leader of that Christian expedition, to be the Katikiro or the prime minister. So this marked the climax of Christian revolution in Buganda. So that's how revolution took place in Buganda Kingdom. Here now, we are going to look at another aspect which is very, very important as well, whereby we'll look at the impact now of the explorers and the missionaries on Buganda Kingdom. We have seen how they interacted with the people, or what they did in the kingdom. So what was the impact? Number one, growth of Christianity. Growth led to the growth of Christianity. So the numbers of Christians were increased in Buganda to 7,000 baptized Protestants and about 57,000 others, or readers, or the readers who were just following that Christianity. And more African priests were ordained, and they outnumbered the Europeans. So we see to it that power was transferred. Power to spread the Christianity in the kingdom, it was given or transferred to the Africans, whereby most of them, they became leaders and they were leading in the spread of the gospel. So that's why we are saying that in Buganda, Christianity grew. And growth of the church. So the number of Anglican churches rose because of the missionaries. And in 1918, there were 110,000 baptized Anglicans in Buganda. In 1966, Buganda was the only African country where Christians outnumbered non-Christians. So we see to it that in Buganda, they accepted Christianity in large numbers. So in 1966, there was no other African country with more Christians than non-Christians. And it also paved the way for colonization. So the other factor or impact was that it paved the way for colonization. So the efforts of Protestant missionaries from Britain in Buganda led to Uganda being declared a British protectorate, because we have seen there that most of the missionaries who went there, they were the Christian missionaries who came from Britain. Hence, Britain, when they were during that partition of Africa, they declared Uganda to be under them, because already they were their people, the missionaries. Another impact is that it led to the expansion of education. In 1900, there were 72 Christian Missionary Society schools with nearly 8,000 scholars. And in 1913, there were 331 schools within with 32,000 scholars. So we see to it that education was really advanced. It was expanding. Another impact was the development of agriculture. So missionaries, e.g., Bulab brought the first cotton seed in 1903, and thus began the cultivation of the vital cash crop. So they brought the first cotton seed in 1903. So there was that development of agriculture. Also, the presence of missionaries in Buganda led to the development of medicine. So in 1897, the Christian Missionary Society had a hospital. They opened a hospital at Namirembe, and Dr. A. Cook in 1900 was the first to diagnose sleeping sickness, the spread of syphilis, as well as the cause of anemia. So Dr. A. Cook, he was the first there to diagnose there in that year, 1900. So the Christian Missionary Society also founded 3 leper centers in 1920. So there was all those who were suffering from leprosy, they were created their own centers. So by 1920, there were about 3 leprosy centers. To this far, we are supposed to look at now the end part now, whereby we look at the decline of Buganda Kingdom. So let us look at the factors for the decline. What were the causes of the decline of the Buganda Kingdom? Number one is religion. Islam and Christianity weakened the cultural tradition and the Lubale cult that we have been talking about. So the new centers of power and loyalty were created with shift from Kabaka to missionaries. So we see to it that religion dominated. Hence, the people, they lost their power of traditions and the Rubari cult. Colonization was also another thing that also contributed to the decline of Buganda Kingdom. So the British controlled the area, and Kabaka was allowed to rule in subordination to the British. So the British, they controlled that area, and what happened was that the Kabaka was there recognized, but he was just a subordinate to the British. He was just a part, he was just listening to what the British were saying because it was colonized. And also hard tax led to the decline of Buganda. There was a hard tax of 3 rupees per year. So the tax collected were remitted to the protectorate government instead of their services. So we see to it that the taxes that were collected there, they were submitted to the colonial government. As a result, things did not go well to the Buganda or to the Kabaka himself. And also land monopoly. So half the land of Buganda was made crown. So when we say a crown, we mean it was now a property of the British government. So we are saying that half of Buganda belonged to the British government. And also poor administration was another factor for the decline. So subordinate chiefs did not hold hereditary titles. They were just appointed to function as at various levels. So subordinate chiefs, they were not holding hereditary titles to say after they die, then their sons to take over. They were just appointed at a particular time on particular levels. That one again, it weakened the Buganda Kingdom. To this far, we have come to the end of this topic. Really, it has been a very, very long and hectic journey. We have unearthed, we have tried to dig more of the aspects in the Buganda Kingdom. So to this far, it means that we are now able to explain about Buganda Kingdom. We know what it was, the origins, the factors for the rise, and the organization, how it was organized, and many aspects that took place in that Buganda Kingdom. So here with me is the end of topic exercise, just as we do. So you see the end of topic exercise just as usual. So in this one, there are a number of questions because as you have seen, this has been a very, very long topic indeed. I hope you have taken so many sessions, so many periods to come to this end. So here, they are the questions that you are supposed to handle. So just as usual, do it as you do. You get pen and paper and you answer these questions. So answer them correctly and just be neat on that paper when you are answering. So there are so many questions here. So the questions, they go on up to number 16. They go up to 16. So all these are your questions where you need to pause and copy the questions on your own, understand them, and start answering them. So you can answer them whether you are going to take 4 pages, 5 pages, no problem. So do that one. So question number 6 is as usual. It's an essay. So you know an essay. Discuss factors for the growth of Buganda Kingdom. A straightforward question, but you are going to write it in an essay form. So you answer this one in an essay form, question number 16. Write a very good essay. So as usual, what you do is after you write all the answers, then just get a phone or you can scan. Just scan your papers and you forward your answers now to this number that is here. That is the WhatsApp number. Then immediately I get your work and I mark and I give you feedbacks. If you have the email address, you can also forward into this email address. Then I am always there to listen or to mark your paper. So do that. I'll mark your paper and give you feedback as well. The reason we do this is very simple. I know you attend school, you go to school. Your teachers, they teach you all these things. Sometimes you have books. Maybe at home you have many books that you rely on. But at the end of your schooling, you are going to sit for MANEB exam. So MANEB exam is about answering questions. You can learn, learn. But if you don't answer questions, it means you have not reached the end. You have to pass the exam. So sometimes, myself as a teacher, I have observed that many people, they do have the materials even at school there. If you can observe your friends, maybe yourself, you have those books, piles of books. But sometimes when you open that book, if you read it, sometimes you don't even get what is there. You easily forget. That's why this project is there for you to do the same things, to revise the same things. And not only that, that's why I put this one, the exercise at the end. Is the very, very important thing that you need to not to overlook. School, it needs seriousness. So you need not to overlook this part. So make sure that you take your time and work on this exercise. Send it to me. I mark. Because the problem that is there is that sometimes you don't know how to answer the questions. You can have the materials, but how to find the right answers is a problem. So I will be guiding you on the same again to say, all right, you have answered it in this way, but the correct way to answer it is this, and that. Then you will be keeping those things until the final day you'll be sitting for manual exams. So don't overlook these things. They are really good things. They are beautiful things that will make you practice now and again in answering questions. So do that. Do that. Don't overlook it. So next time, there'll be another wonderful, wonderful topic. This wonderful topic is about the Mutapa Kingdom. The Mutapa Kingdom. Mutapa Kingdom was there in Zimbabwe. So we are going to look at the Mutapa Kingdom. So this kingdom is also having good aspects and other aspects that we are going to enjoy as well. But you know what? This one is not as long as the Buganda. No, the Buganda has been extended. I extended it so that we have to understand most of those aspects. So the Mwenemtapa is very brief and it is very sweet when you listen. When you listen to it attentively, you learn a lot of things. But this topic, the good news is that it is already on DVD. All you can do is get up that call. Get up that phone and call to say, I need this Mutapa Kingdom. Immediately, I am sending you the DVD for this topic. So enjoy your lessons. Enjoy your education, because the time to gather all information about education is this time when you are in school. Because when you go outside, after you have missed all these things, then these people, they will see outside the world, they will say, he's not educated, he failed, whatever. So don't fail. This is the time to gather all information. So until that time, I'm there waiting for your call. Thank you so much.